Hey, Oscar fans, Academy Awards are days away. Whose predictions should you steal? I highly recommend stealing those of Kevin Polowy from Yahoo, Scott Mantz from Access Hollywood. I'm Tom O'Neill of Gold Derby, and we're going to start with the basic question. It's all about La La Land. How many is it going to win?
I'm going to say 11. It's going to tie Titanic and what, Ben-Hur?
Ben-Hur.
Yes.
And Lord of the Rings.
And Lord of the Rings, yes. I'm going with 11 nominations. It can only win 13, but it's going to win 11.
Now, you're much more skeptical.
I'm confused because I thought we were going to talk about 50 Shades Darker.
This isn't the Razzie.
Next year.
This is the wrong.
Next
Am I in the
year.
wrong room?
Next year. So what Kevin has at Gold Derby currently are 8 categories for
For La La Land.
For La La Land, and you're saying it's not going to win director, cinematography, or costumes.
What?
At this point, it could. I'm going to put the over/under on. I'm going to go a couple less than Mr. Mantz here. I'm going to say 8 or 9. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to say 8 or 9. My decision's not made up on a few of those.
I know it's crucial for us to say that we have the right to change our predictions, and most pundits do all the way up to the.
But as it stands now, I'm going to say between 7 and 12.
Oh, okay.
The most daring prediction, Kevin, that you
I'm
have.
committing to that.
Okay. All right, now commit to this. Director is one place that you're.
Now, I got to hear this.
Okay,
Who is going to win the Oscar if it's not Damien Chazelle?
Barry Jenkins.
Okay, why?
Okay, I gotta be out right here. This is at this point in my prediction, it's more of a matter of personal preference. I'm gonna say that. Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah,
Are we allowed to just
that
vote with
means
our
Scott's
hearts?
going to beat you in
'Cause I'm
terms
gonna-
of predictions.
I'm gonna vote with my heart here.
Didn't you just crush everybody with what, Golden Globes or something? I
did.
Number
Yeah,
one.
you
I
did.
mean,
Okay, well,
I
what
did.
award show?
Scott's won at Gold Derby many times though.
I think I won twice on the same weekend.
Oh, okay.
And then I took a weekend off because I felt bad for winning so much. So I didn't vote on DGAs. I would have gone Chazelle, okay? Because I think if there's one top prize to go to, yes, you give it to Chazelle. I love, in recent years, we've seen a few splits between Best Picture and Best Director. I love when that happens, especially when I think there are 2 films that are a clear cut above the fray. And that is the case this year, La La Land and Moonlight. They can't give them both. They can't give them both Best Picture. You give one picture, you give one director. La La Land's going to win Best Picture. We all know that. Moonlight, yeah, it's going to win some other categories, but why not Best Director for Barry Jenkins?
I felt that way a couple years ago with the whole Boyhood Birdman situation. I thought both of those movies are groundbreaking, trailblazing films for completely different reasons. So why not give one movie Best Director and the other one Best Picture? I thought that Alejandro Inarritu would get Best Director, and I thought that Boyhood would get Best Picture, and because this way both movies get their top crowns, but not this year. I really think that as much as I do love Moonlight, it's a little bit of a quote-unquote smaller film, whereas La La Land is big, is grand. It is a lot more challenging than I think a lot of people give it credit for, because the tone that Damien Chazelle had to walk from start to finish was a tough one to walk. Here's a movie that feels like a throwback to the 50s musicals, that has the Technicolor and the CinemaScope look to it. All of the dance and music numbers are done in one take, and they're all done full body. No close-ups, no zooms, no heavy editing on those dance numbers. That is a challenge, and that is why and especially the end of the film, no spoilers for people who haven't seen it, but I thought the end of the movie was bold and daring, and you kind of get the best of both worlds with that ending, and those are just some of the reasons why I think that Damien Chazelle will win and should win.
But to Kevin's defense,
Yes.
in recent Oscar history, since the voting has changed, the methodology, we have seen more difference between picture and director than in the past. Like last year, Inarritu wins director for The Revenant, and Spotlight wins Best Picture. And the reason for that is it's a totally different voting process. Voters rank their favorites for Best Picture, and they just pick one winner outright for director. And that's why things are suddenly.
But even if Chazelle won the Directors Guild Award, which the majority of the times the winner of the Directors Guild Award goes on to win the Oscar for directing. Most cases that happens. Obviously, I mean, Ben Affleck won the Directors Guild Award for Argo, but he wasn't even nominated for the Oscar for Argo. But yeah, I think especially this year, that groundswell, winning the Producers Guild Award for La La Land, the Directors Guild Award for Damien Chazelle, Groundswell does mean something. He won the Golden Globe and the movie won a record 7 Golden Globes. Granted, the Golden Globe voters are journalists, not people who make movies, and they're not the Academy. Everybody knows that. There's also only 90 voters compared to 7,000 or 6,000 Academy. So I hear what you're saying. I respect the opinion. I would not be surprised if what you said happened. I don't think it is.
So what you're saying is you want to fight right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
I get it.
All right, now all three of us are in agreement that Denzel Washington is the new frontrunner for Best Actor.
Yep.
Now, we wouldn't have said that a couple of weeks ago, at which point he had won nothing anywhere, and he's not even nominated at BAFTA. Kevin, why do you think Denzel beats the guy who's been winning everything, Casey Affleck?
Well, to Scott's point on Best Picture, the groundswell, there is a little bit of momentum building right now. I think that is undeniable. I think the SAG. A lot of people didn't. I don't believe called the SAG win.
No.
That wasn't that surprising though. When you discover that Denzel had actually never won a SAG award before. But I saw that as kind of like a first major step. And you factor that with Fences obviously is the definitive actors movie, so it's not a big shock that Washington, between never having won a SAG award and the fact that this Fences is going to appeal to that audience more so than I think anyone on earth. But I think at the same time, I think people have, even if nobody is saying it out loud, maybe some quiet reservations about Casey Affleck, given the baggage,
the allegations
that surrounds him, and sort of the the hypocrisy that a lot of people have pointed out, that it's past allegations have already completely taken down one contender, Nate Parker from The Birth of a Nation. It's too early to tell, but I think that I think I've gotten a sense that there's a little bit of like a quiet buildup against Casey Affleck.
It's interesting because the last two awards that were given out at the SAG Awards were huge surprises. Best Actor, Denzel Washington for Fences, and Best Acting Ensemble for Hidden Figures. Now, the Denzel factor is interesting because, like everything you just said, up to that point, everyone was, it's Casey Affleck, Casey Affleck, Casey Affleck from Manchester by the Sea. He deserves it. He was a revelation in that movie, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival last year. And I remember we were all sitting at the Apples Theater watching that movie, Manchester by the Sea, going, holy Toledo, that movie is brilliant. It is a great American film written and directed by Kenneth Lonergan. It should get nominated for screenplay, director, definitely actor for Casey Affleck, and supporting actress for Michelle Williams. And it was nominated for all of those things. So
plus Hedges, don't forget Lucas Hedges.
Oh, Lucas Hedges, absolutely. Yeah, supporting actor. Well, he's that was a breakout performance. Whereas Casey Affleck had done great work in films like Assassination of Jesse James and Eighth and Body Saints, but no one really saw those movies. People are seeing Manchester by the Sea. I mean, not a lot. It's not like it's made $100 million, but it's done quite well in limited release. But
he's still in the hunt, though. He can win.
He could. It is a horse race between these two guys.
Absolutely.
But going on what you said, Kevin, about the allegations. Now those allegations against Casey Affleck didn't make nearly as much noise as the whole brouhaha surrounding Nate Parker and Birth of a Nation. In fact, the rise and fall of Birth of a Nation, going from Oscar frontrunner in January last year, where it sold to Searchlight for $17.5 million, a record, to nothing at the Oscars, is somebody's got to write a book about that. But I still think that as where we stand now and where we will stand on February 25th, the day before the Oscars, is that it is any person's race between Denzel and Casey Affleck.
Yeah, I think it's one of the closest races of the night. I look at it as like 51-49 at this point.
I was all Casey. For 11 months, I was Casey. Now I'm Team Denzel.
How easily swayed we are.
I was once Team Edgerton, but that didn't work out so well.
Let's figure out the actress lineup, because normally Best Picture wins an acting award, except the past 2 years. And Emma is the heart and soul of this really heartfelt movie that's going to sweep the Oscars one way or another. However, whatever total you come up with.
11.
But, and I agree with you about the 11. But the point is that she's vulnerable, that she doesn't have a physical transformation. She's not portraying a real-life person. These are often big prejudices among voters, right? So that said, Natalie Portman does take on another famous person. I think she's has a realistic chance here in this thing. And I think that Meryl Streep has been the firebrand Hollywood symbol against Washington. There's going to be a little kind of political push for her. And let's remember, the last time she won, it was an upset over Viola Davis in The Help.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that leads us
Lady.
to who's the one I'm forgetting?
Isabelle.
Isabelle Huppert.
Isabelle Huppert.
One of the most basic ways that you predict an award very often is if one thing is very unlike all of the others, that can win. And she certainly is, as the mature senior actress in a foreign film. There are some wise people who think that Peter Travers, among them at Gold Derby, who says Isabelle will win. Is that possible?
Well, let's also not forget Ruth Negga.
From Loving. But she can't really win.
She's not going to win. I
But
don't
it's
know.
an honor
I was
for her.
surprised
But I
even she
think
got
that
nominated.
a case could be made for the other four.
Sure, yeah, I think so. This might be one of the, at least among the acting races, the category with the most number of possible winners. I guess 4 out of 5. I think that's a great point. I see it going to Emma Stone. One thing we did not discuss when we were talking about Best Actor is, in Oscar politicking, you always have to consider past wins, right? That's one area where Casey Affleck has an advantage over Mr.
Correct.
Washington, especially given that Denzel's last win was kind of a make good. So he's not owed
Training Day,
anything after being
2001, right.
robbed from Malcolm X. Okay, so Emma Stone, in my personal opinion, I thought she should have won 2 years ago for Birdman.
She was great.
She was my pick then, my prediction, my favored pick. She was so fierce in that movie. Like you said, I think she's the heart and soul of La La Land. Yeah, she does. It's not necessarily a transformative performance like you see Natalie Portman turn in as Jackie O. Kennedy. But there was, a lot that performance took a lot of different abilities. Even beyond the song and dance, there's a huge dramatic arc there, give it over the course of this love story that they tell. I think she's phenomenal. I think she's going to win it pretty easily.
I don't think she's going to win pretty easily.
I think that of all the acting categories, lead actor and actress and supporting actor and actress, the lead actress category is the toughest category this year because of Natalie Portman, because of Isabelle Huppert, and because of Emma Stone. Now, what you said about Natalie Portman as Jackie Kennedy, it is a transformation. It is the strongest role she's had on the big screen since Black Swan, for which she won the Oscar for Best Actress.
6 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was 6 years ago. And this film is produced by Darren Aronofsky, who directed her to that win in Black Swan. Now, Isabelle Huppert, not as well known in the USA, but she is an international movie legend. And for her to get an award for this film, Elle, directed by Paul Verhoeven, that would sort of like be her career achievement award in addition to winning the Oscar. But I absolutely agree with you about Emma Stone. Now, does she go through like a physical transformation? She actually kind of does, because she's so emotional about
but she's not packing on
But wait,
weight like
yeah.
Hilary Swank did for $1 Million Baby.
No,
she's not Helen Mirren becoming the
She's
Queen
not
of England.
Charlize
Come
Theron
on.
and Monster. She's not
At the
Charlize Theron.
Oscars, they're often voting for the most of something
But Tom,
than the best of something.
Tom, Kevin, here's the thing.
Well, I like it. It's
What
getting
Emma
heated.
Stone did.
Well, somebody's got to knock sense
Yeah.
into him, right?
But what Emma Stone did in La La Land is she demonstrated.
Yeah, but these aren't the
more,
Scott Mantz
wait,
Awards.
Just a minute. But this is why she won the SAG Award for lead actress. Okay, and she should have won the Critics' Choice Award because I voted for her. But for her
She won
performance,
the SAG Award because there was no place else as a voter, and I'm a SAG voter like you are. There was no other place to vote for La La Land because it wasn't up for ensemble.
Okay, but
So
wait,
the-
hang on. We're getting ahead of ourselves here. Okay, first of all, it was not up for acting ensemble because it's not an ensemble. It's a 2-person show, or 3 if you include John Legend. It is not an ensemble. It was not snubbed in that category. It got nominations where it deserved to, lead actor and lead actress, and she won. She's going to win the Oscar because of the range that she demonstrates. She goes through more emotion in one film than a lot of actors and actresses do in the course of their career. She has to sing and dance, sometimes at the same time. She does comedy, she does drama, she breaks down, she's vulnerable, she's in love. I mean, the last look that Ryan and Emma gave each other in this film, no word said, none needed, because that is acting. And the power of the film, that the ambition and the drive that drew them together and made them fall for each other is what ultimately drew them apart. That is reality.
But you're
I love
acting
the
as
end of
if
this movie.
they're really voting on the best of anything at the Oscars. Do you think anybody said Sandra Bullock gave the best performance of all actresses
Gravity.
in the year? It's just. I'm talking about.
Blindside?
And Blindside. No, it was her year. It's who we love and it's who we don't. And it's our job as Oscarologists to say this is coming down the pike. And we didn't see
on
Mark
top of
Rylance.
everything, then Tom, on top of everything,
Right.
yeah, this is Emma Stone's year. She is the heart and soul of La La Land. Like you just said, I agree with you. I'm
predicting
with you,
her
Tom.
too, but I'm
It is
very,
her
very-
year. I mean, I fell in love with Emma Stone watching this movie. Who didn't?
I was already in love with her.
Yeah, true.
I fell in love with her again.
I have to confess, it's easy A. I fell in love with
Oh,
Emma Stone.
yeah.
Since
No,
Zombieland.
Superbad.
Wait, Superbad,
I'm going further back.
All right,
Superbad.
fine,
I was like, who is she? She's going to be a star.
Yeah, she's
what
going
I
to be a
said.
star, and she is.
True story.
Nobody can beat Viola Davis for supporting actress, right? That's just a lot.
in Bet the House. It's her award. I mean, who?
Can anybody beat Mahershala Ali for supporting actor?
In my wildest dreams, Michael Shannon for Nocturnal Animals.
I saw your pick. Yeah.
Look, this is where we saw an upset last year.
Yes.
The actor's actor won. Mark Rylance beat
Exactly.
Sly Stallone, the distant front runner in this case.
And by the way, Mark Rylance won without doing any campaigning at all, and Stallone was out there.
Oh, and without winning anything else except what BAFTA early on. We didn't feel that earthquake coming. So we know that very often these upsets happen in the supporting categories. Jim Broadbent's a good example for Iris. Are we going to have one of those this year? Or is it possible?
I thought it might have been possible pre-SAGs. Okay, I thought that maybe it was a little more wide open. I know the experts' favorite, I think, through the last couple months has been Mahershala,
Yeah,
and
he
he is amazing in that film,
For
Moonlight.
the third of the movie that he's in.
For
yeah,
the
sure.
yes,
third,
it's a
okay.
supporting role. It's a supporting role. Okay, but as we all know, to the point you were just making to Mr. Mantz about 30 seconds ago, it extends beyond the performance.
But yeah,
right?
what you think is going to actually win, right?
Right. And Mahershala, I think, won the Oscar with that SAG speech, which was, I mean, it
that
went
was a great
viral.
SAG
It was,
speech,
it was so moving. It was so poignant. I mean, perfect. Nothing we can say about Moonlight will better capture its essence than what Mahershala Ali said that night about the main character needing to fold into himself. It was such a powerful speech. I think if anyone, for some reason, maybe was resisting Moonlight up until that point, they might have given it a view. We all know sometimes it's tough to get all the Academy.
It's also his year. Because
He's all over the place.
he's all over the place.
It's like the Alicia Vikander of this year.
Yeah,
right,
good
right.
point. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, he's in Hidden Figures, which is by the time the Oscars come around, will be the highest-grossing domestic movie of the 9 movies that are nominated for Best Picture. Probably at this point that the Oscars actually air, it could be over 150 million domestically.
Could Hidden Figures pull off an upset in Screenplay?
I was thinking about that when I was doing my picks, especially after it won Best Acting Ensemble. And it could pull an upset because, well, I think La La Land is Moonlight is the favorite movie to win.
It's adapted screenplay we're talking about. Right.
Adapted screenplay. And I think Moonlight is still my pick, but here's a film that is based on a true story, sheds light on 3 women who did not get their due back in 1961 or the years since. 3 diverse women who are not playing the wife, the girlfriend, wondering why they got married. They are 3 strong female protagonists. I love the line in the film when John Glenn, played by Glenn Powell, is on the phone with Kevin Costner. And he's saying, what about the numbers? And he's going, oh, the computer, it's something not adding up with the computer. And John Glenn says, well, what does the woman say? And he goes, which one? He goes, the smart one. Mm-hmm. Not the pretty one, not the black one, not the heavy one. No, it's the smart one. That line just said everything about the appeal of this movie, being that it is a movie that is, like I said, based on a true story. It is a crowd pleaser, very much so a crowd pleaser. It's rousing, it's inspiring. It is it has a diverse cast. And because of all those things, Moonlight is a beautiful film, but it doesn't have the layers that Hidden Figures has for the reasons I just mentioned. So yeah, it could pull an upset, and it wouldn't be an upset. It would deserve it.
I don't think it stands a chance, to be honest.
But isn't it this year's Imitation Gang? Very much.
Okay,
like
I don't want to say it doesn't stand a chance. It stands a chance.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not nearly enough credit. I mean, it would be the populist pick, as Scott mentioned. It's become this huge I think you can call it a sleeper hit. Nobody expected it to do these numbers. And I loved the film. I agree with you fully. There are some great moments, some great lines. One of my favorites was "We all pee the same color."
Yeah.
Great. Like there are these great zingers. I think what could ultimately work against it is that it's a little too traditional. I think
Conventional.
It's a little too conventional.
Yeah, it is.
It is. I don't want to say it's boilerplate, but it is an inspirational drama. We know not only because it's based on a true story, but we've seen these beats before play out countless times. We know exactly where it's going. It doesn't. That I think you pulled out an amazing line of a moment where you are very pleasantly surprised by a line of dialogue, and I agree that was brilliantly crafted.
Right.
But I can't. I see this, to the point I made about Best Picture. As we know, Imitation Game, I think, is an exception. Usually, you see the screenplay categories if the top two dogs are not going against one another. In this case, they aren't. La La Land and Moonlight. I see this going to Moonlight very easily. It's based. There's an amazing story behind it. I think that's going to count for a lot. That it was based on this unproduced play discovered from out of obscurity. That clearly was a very beautiful story. But the fact that Jenkins took this one writer's, help me out on his name, the playwright. Well, we're going to edit that in afterwards.
Okay, we'll flash it on
I'll
the
do
screen.
the audio.
But that said, though, I think that it's vulnerable. I think Hidden Figures is the potential upset here because it has. When you see upsets, Precious. Remember when that won a screenplay award and nobody saw it? It had enormous heart.
Yeah.
And it had a female perspective. And it has a lot of these things that you got to think about. And that's one of the reasons it pulled off the upset at SAG. I think it's in the hunt. Let's move over to the other category. For original screenplay, Kevin, keep going. You've got Manchester. Both of you have got Manchester by the Sea there, right? But what about La La Land? It won the script award at the Globes. It normally doesn't win screenplay awards musicals.
Well, I feel like okay. So maybe up till a couple weeks ago, before the SAG Awards, I was Casey Affleck for lead actor, and I was La La Land for original screenplay. You cannot. Manchester by the Sea cannot go home empty-handed. It's not going to get director. It's not.
Tell that to American Hustle.
Okay.
A couple years ago, 10 nominations.
10 nominations.
Come on, it happens.
But you know what?
I don't think it had the respect that Manchester does.
American Hustle, first of all, I liked the film, but I think it's a little overrated.
It was shut out.
Yeah.
It was overrated. It was overrated. It was a Scorsese wannabe movie, but I digress. But I feel like you cannot send Manchester by the Sea home with nothing. And I love La La Land to pieces, and to give it Best Picture and Best Director and Best Actress, but not Screenplay, I feel like it's not really fair, and I feel like it should win, but I feel like at the same time Manchester is a strong film. The screenplay is terrific. Manchester by the Sea is a great American movie, and the screenplay is strong, and I feel like if it's going to win anywhere, if it's not going to win an actor for Casey Affleck, it'll be screenplay.
Kevin, we saw Lord of the Rings go for 11 categories a few years ago at the Oscars. Sweep voting happens when they really love a film. Like La La Land just went undefeated. These 7 wins that it had at the Globes that Scott is talking about here, it went undefeated, and screenplay went along for the ride. Normally, as we say, musicals don't win screenplay awards, but it's possible, right?
That was exactly the point I was just going to make. I'm sure back in the golden age.
In the 50s, musicals won screenplay.
Many
but
musicals
not
won.
since.
Yes, we didn't see Moulin Rouge win a screenplay. I love how you keep describing Manchester by the Sea as this ultimate American tale, because in a way it does feel sort of, Lonergan's work does kind of feel like, this might sound a little hoity-toity, but kind of like the F. Scott Fitzgerald of our time. He is such an incredible writer. He is so revered too as a writer, and I think that's ultimately is what is going to separate him from Damien Chazelle here. Chazelle's not going to go home empty-handed.
No.
They want to give Lonergan something. Manchester by the Sea is so amazingly written.
I mean the dialogue, the raw feeling of Manchester by the Sea. It is a vulnerable film. It is a tough movie. it just feels very like gritty in that sense. The grief. This guy. You get to the end of the film, and you don't know if he's going to be okay. Yeah. I mean, the whole scene with between Michelle Williams and Casey Affleck, where she's like basically saying, "I forgive you," and he's saying, "I don't want you to forgive me." I mean, they said it better, but that scene was so superbly acted from a superbly written screenplay.
It's a gut punch, that movie. It is so devastating. It's a human tragedy, and it's told masterfully by Lonergan.
That said, we're talking about Oscar voters who are crazy because they're Hollywooders. Forget what we think. What do you think? Go to Gold Derby, make your predictions, beat the experts. And people do. You can too.